My husband's family insisted our wedding be in their language, so I wouldn't understand a thing. You don't need to know, his sister laughed. My husband said, it's just a tradition. So, I let them take charge. On the wedding day, something happened that left them all speechless. I'm 32, and I grew up in Oregon. 4 years ago, I moved to Florence, Italy, to teach English. That's where I met my now ex-husband, Luca, who was 34 at the time. He was funny, kind, and polite. At first, he spoke great English, and we got along really well. After dating for a year and a half, he proposed. I said yes. I thought I was marrying into a big, welcoming Italian family, but I was wrong. They barely tried to include me. Luca's family is from a town in northern Italy, and they speak a dialect called Venetian, which is very different from standard Italian. I understand some Italian, but Venetian? It was like a whole different language. When we started planning the wedding, I suggested having the ceremony in both English and Italian. Since my family and a few close friends were coming from the US, I wanted them to feel included. That's when things got strange. Luca's sister, Kira, laughed and said, no, it has to be in our dialect. That's how it's always been. I asked if we could have a translation, or at least some parts in English for my family. She said, you don't need to know, you'll get the general idea. I looked at Luca, hoping he'd say something, but he didn't. He just said, it's a tradition, you'll understand the important parts. I felt uncomfortable but didn't want to cause trouble. I told myself, it's just a wedding. I regret thinking that now. Once the language decision was made, I was shut out of everything. Every meeting was in Venetian, and I just sat there, not understanding anything. When I asked questions, they said, don't worry, we've got it under control. Kira even joked once, saying, you'll be surprised, just show up in the dress, and they all laughed. They didn't even put my name on the invitations. They wrote Luca Alasta, which means Luca and the foreigner. My family thought it was a joke, but I didn't know how to explain it. When I confronted Luca, he said, it's just a nickname, my mom likes it, but I knew it was more than that. Everywhere I turned, I was reminded that I wasn't part of the family, just tolerated. About a month before the wedding, Luca started acting strange. He wasn't affectionate, and he seemed distant and stressed. I thought he was just nervous, but deep down, I felt something was off. Then, my best friend Cassie, who speaks Italian, visited me. She came with me to one of the final planning meetings. While everyone talked, we sat at the back, and nobody paid attention to Cassie. Later that night, she told me, they're planning something, and it's not just the wedding. She overheard Kira talking about putting me in my place and showing me what this family is really about. It didn't sound like a celebration, it sounded like control. I felt sick. Cassie and I started investigating. We found a program someone had left behind, and with the help of a translator I hired, we got it translated. The ceremony wasn't meant to celebrate me, it was meant to humiliate me. The priest's vows talked about how the bride was an outsider and must follow the family's traditions. There was even a speech planned by Kira, saying, we never thought Luca would marry outside, but we're a generous family, and we opened our arms to someone different. The word foreign kept coming up. Even the music playlist had songs mocking Americans, like a joke about how Americans put ketchup on pasta. It was all meant to make me look ridiculous. I cried, then I got angry. Here's what they didn't know, I still controlled the contracts. I paid for the venue, the DJ, and even hired a translator to help my family understand the ceremony. I had one job for the DJ, press play at exactly 4:23 p.m. I stayed calm, smiled at the dress fittings, and thanked Kira for the wine she sent, but inside, I was planning my revenge. On the wedding day, I wore the dress they insisted I wear, a beautiful but old-fashioned heirloom from Luca's grandmother. My makeup was simple, but my hands were shaking. My parents were seated in the back, away from the front where Luca's family had told the planner the honored guest should sit. The ceremony began. The priest started speaking, and my translator whispered everything into my ear. It was worse than I thought. He called me the outsider, said I was being welcomed under the family's mercy, and that I had to obey their traditions. Then, Kira gave her speech. She looked at me and said, this is our family, we are proud and united, and we do not change for others. People clapped. I looked at Luca, but he didn't look at me. Then, the speakers crackled. My voice came through, live. Hello, everyone. I've been told not to speak today. I've been told I don't need to understand, that I'm a foreigner. There was complete silence. I've heard the jokes. I've read the program. I know what this wedding really was. People started shifting in their seats. I saw Luca whispering to his mother. I wasn't done. You planned this wedding in a language I couldn't understand. You mocked me behind my back. Then the second recording started. Kira's voice, she'll just stand there smiling. It'll be hilarious. People gasped. The priest's voice, this will teach her how things work here. The recording stopped, and the room was frozen. Luca's aunt dropped her wine glass. It shattered. My mother-in-law's jaw dropped. Kira looked like she'd swallowed something sour. The priest tried to step forward, but I kept talking. I didn't come here to be mocked. I didn't agree to marry into a joke. I turned to my family in the back. I see why you were put back there. They didn't want you to see what was really happening. My dad stood up, and my mom was crying. Then I said something I hadn't planned. I looked at Luca. You had a chance to stop this. You knew. You heard everything, and you said nothing. Still, he didn't speak. His silence told me everything. I was about to walk away when another woman stood up. She was young, maybe in her 20s, with short brown hair and sharp eyes. I had seen her earlier with Luca's side. She walked up to the altar and took the mic from my hand. I'm sorry, I can't stay quiet, she said. The room turned to her. I'm Martina, Luca's friend. She looked at Luca. We've been seeing each other for 6 months. There were gasps. I froze. You cheated, I said, and he didn't deny it. People started whispering. My translator walked over to me. They didn't know, she said. Some of them didn't. But Kira knew. She was furious. This was supposed to be a family event, she hissed. You ruined it, I said. No, I replied. You ruined it. I just showed everyone what it really was. Then, Kira slapped me. Everyone gasped. The venue manager stormed in and shouted, Enough, everyone out, now. I could have just walked out, but I didn't. I went back to the mic. I didn't come to Italy to be part of a circus. I came here for love and respect. Instead, I got lies and cruelty. I paused and said, I paid for this venue, so my family will eat, dance, and enjoy themselves. You're not invited, I told Luca. Then I gave the DJ the signal. He played the song I'd chosen weeks ago, Respect by Aretha Franklin. My parents clapped. Cassie grabbed my hand. My cousin started cheering. Everyone else was quiet, awkward, and slowly started leaving. After they left, my family, Cassie, and a few of Luca's cousins who whispered apologies stayed behind. We ate, danced, and had a good time. The photographer took every picture I asked for, not one with Luca in it. But the next morning, I woke up to over 40 missed calls from Luca, his mom, Chiara, and some unknown numbers. They wanted to talk and said I overreacted, embarrassed the family, and made it personal. No apologies, just blame. But I wasn't done. I still had one more thing to do. I sat in the hotel room, still in my wedding hair and makeup, staring at the wall. My parents were having coffee, trying not to make too much noise. Cassie was scrolling through her phone, reading missed calls and local news alerts. Turns out, someone had live-streamed the wedding, and the video went viral in our small town. The caption, American bride takes down groom's entire family in 3 languages. Around noon, Cassie came in, holding her phone. You need to see this, she said. It was a Facebook post from Martina, the woman who exposed Luca's affair. But she wasn't alone. She was with Chiara, laughing and holding wine glasses, with the caption #FamilyFirst. The post was uploaded just 2 days before the wedding, saying, can't wait for the big surprise. So, Martina wasn't some brave truth teller. She was part of it, a plant. She was never supposed to confess, but her connection with Chiara was real. We dug into their social media and found photos of Martina with Luca's family, going back a year. It wasn't just a betrayal, it was planned. The priest's words about obedience now felt different. It wasn't just tradition, it was a test, a punishment. Later, I got a call from the venue owner. He said Chiara contacted him, accusing me of breaking the rules and causing a disturbance. She wanted to keep my deposit and threatened to sue. Of course, she would. What they didn't know was that I had recorded every meeting I attended. Every time they said, "Don't worry about it or you don't need to know," I recorded it. Cassie helped organize the files, and I sent them all to the venue owner. 3 hours later, he called back and said, "Refund processed. Chiara is blacklisted." In a voice note, he said, "You didn't have to destroy everything. It wasn't personal. You didn't understand the culture." He blamed me for everything. That was the last time I heard from him. But it wasn't over. A few days later, Cassie showed me a document on her laptop. It was a real estate transfer in both our names, filled out, but unsigned. Luca had initiated it. The plan wasn't just to humiliate me, it was about control and money. Luca's family had financial issues, and marrying me was a way to clean things up. They planned to use my American bank account to move money around. I had already talked to my lawyer about protecting my assets. The wedding wasn't legally binding yet, and I never added Luca to my accounts, so, legally, I wasn't married. A week later, Luca's uncle sent me a letter accusing me of defamation and threatening legal action unless I apologized and paid a reparative fee. That's when I decided to respond publicly. I posted everything, the recordings, the humiliating ceremony, the planned scam, and the fact that I was never legally married. I even shared the photo of Martina and Kiera from before the wedding. The post went viral again. Then Kiera snapped. 3 days later, she showed up at a cafe where I was having lunch with Cassie. She slammed her hand on the table and yelled, "You think you're a hero? You ruined everything." I stood up and said, "I didn't make you look like anything, I just held up a mirror." She kept yelling, blaming me for ruining Luca's life. Cassie stood up and protected herself. Kiera turned to me, her voice dropping low, "You were never going to be one of us." I stood tall and replied, "I'll never understand how a family can lie, cheat, and still expect loyalty. I don't want to understand that." Kiera raised her hand like she was going to slap me, but Luca stopped her. He looked at me, pale and broken. "I didn't want it to be like this," he said. "I was weak. I let it happen." I didn't say anything. He admitted he was scared of losing his family, so he let them destroy us instead. I wanted to scream, but I stayed calm. "I don't hate you," I said, "but I don't trust you, and I never will again." Luca nodded and walked away, with Kiera following him. She hissed at me, "You'll regret this." Cassie said loudly, "No, I think you will." Kiera tried to sue, but it went nowhere. My evidence, emails, recordings, and sworn statements, was solid. The court dismissed her case, but her family's reputation was ruined. Their bakery lost long-time clients, and people in the village started talking about them in shame. Martina disappeared and deleted her social media. I heard she moved to Milan. Luca sent one last email, "I'm sorry, you were right about everything. I hope someday you can forgive me." I never replied. A month later, I flew back to Oregon. No big speeches, no closure talks, just a clean break. For the first time in a long time, I felt free. Some people ask if I regret moving to Italy. I don't. It wasn't Italy that failed me, it was Luca and his family. I don't regret standing up for myself. I don't regret turning the mic on. I don't regret refusing to stay silent. People say, "You must be so strong," but I wasn't. I was terrified, but I still told the truth.